Mm-hmm.
All right, good. All right, so I want to welcome everybody to the City Council meeting for July the 7th, 2020. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And Ms. Sandy, if you can, call the roll.
Okay. Forward,
Here.
Etherly,
Here.
Franklin, Crockett,
Present.
St. Columbia,
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Got 5 present, 1 absent.
All right. So again, thank you all for attending, and anybody who's dialed in tonight for the meeting. Short agenda, but an important one. So I think if I'm reading the agenda right, we don't have any minutes to go. Is that right, Miss Sandy?
That's right. It'll be the next.
So we'll go ahead and move on to the main item on the agenda. The only item on the agenda. Well, wait a minute. We had some checks to discuss. It's not actually on the agenda, I don't think. And is Derek Turner on?
Yes.
Derek. So, and I'm not looking at these. So my apologies. There was one check that was right at $5,000 on the nose. Not asking permission to do it. I just to notify you of it, because anytime you see something that's right at $5,000 or $4,999, it probably creates questions. But in this case, it really did come in at $5,000 on the nose. And I just wanted to alert you about it. It came out of the street sanitation department. And then we have another one that's over 5,000. And again, I don't have that. Apologies, but does anybody have that? Derek or Sandy? Derek, do you mind going over that and answering any questions on?
Yeah, I like to inform them that the first check that was $5,000, that was for a tree from the April storm. It busted a water line. So we have part of it cut up so we can get to the main leak. It tore through the hole in the street. So we had that portion fixed. The trunk of it was still laying on the water line. And so we had that portion of it cut up too, because that part is still leaking. We had to get a tree off the city's water line. The water department's going to pay that $5,000 check. The next one was for $5,092.98. That was for a transmission rebuilt sanitation trucks. So it was a little over $5,000, but the city council needs to approve it before we can pay these guys. It was to GMW Diesel, and they had to replace the transmission, rebuild the transmission on one of the sanitation trucks.
Any questions from members of the council? And again, I'm not really looking at people raising hands and that sort of thing, so just go ahead and interrupt or speak over or whatever you need to do.
I got a question. You said those numbers, this is Chris Franklin, you said those numbers are 5,000 and what else?
The second one is $5,092.98.
And 98 cents.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so with the tree that fell on the water line, where was it located?
On 10th Street.
Okay.
On the corner of 10th and Anderson.
It's where that big tree, that 300-year-old tree or whatever.
I'm familiar where it was. I was just trying to make sure that was the tree, because the trunk of the tree is still laying there, and the homeowner is responsible for the trunk of the tree.
Well, the trunk is on the water line.
Right, but it's still laying there on 10th Street in front of the Mrs. Stark's house.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm sure that's the same tree. Yeah.
Right, because the trunk is still laying there, but I do know what you're talking about because the water ran. I mean, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm on the same page you all are, because that's what.
that tree caused 2 water problems. The first one you're aware of that you remember from the Easter storm itself. And then there was another one as we went in to go repair it that was causing another problem. So before I agreed to pay it, I just told him I wanted to notify you about the 5,000 because it's on the nose. And I'm not trying to raise suspicions. Technically, the city council rule is up to 5,000. I just wanted to notify you of it and allow you to ask questions so there wouldn't be any suspicions about it. The one that's over 5,000 does require your approval.
So I was still talking about it. I do apologize, but the homeowner has homeowners insurance. Will she reimburse the city because she can put down on her homeowner's insurance? Because she still needs somebody to remove the trunk of the tree now. I think the estimated cost that she gave somebody was $10,000. They gave her $10,000 to remove the rest of the trunk of the tree because the trunk of the tree and the tree is still laying not on the street, but like maybe 10 feet away from the street. So I wonder, are y'all gonna seek reimbursement for that, or is this, or how y'all gonna do that?
I can just tell you what I've been told is that this 5,000 is for the portion of the tree that involves the water line.
Okay.
Right. The rest of it would have to be removed by the homeowner.
Okay. And so, and the other $5,000 was for the trucks, sanitation trucks, right?
Yes, sir. They had to rebuild the transmission on one of the sanitation trucks.
Who rebuilt the transmission for those trucks?
G&W Diesel.
So how's our, because I know when back when Mayor Holloway was in office, we got the lease program on those trucks that we trade the truck in every so many years. Is it time for those trucks to be retraded in? Because I think that's the plan that we got on to save the city money, to keep from buying tires and not tires but transmissions. And I think we got an extended warranty on those trucks. We shouldn't have paid that because that's the problem that Ms. Crockett had brought up, that when we bought the new trucks, that we need to get an extended warranty. Who's the truck financed with? Because if remember some cities that the trucks was financed for, and that's one of the things we did was that we got an extended warranty on those sanitation trucks because that's where a lot of our sanitation money was going. And we couldn't, before we increased the sanitation rates, a lot of our money was going on transmission and hydraulic pumps, because the hydraulic pumps had went out, and to keep from the city having a heavy expense cost, we decided to buy extended warranty. And then we did the buyback where that every 2 to 3 years that they would come in and let us get a new truck. I'm thinking that if I'm not mistaken, that's what we did. So where we are on that right now?
I'll check the date in the morning, Mr. Franklin.
Yes, but do you remember that, Ms. Ramsey?
I do.
Because remember, not to, still on the same subject, but we had a garbage truck that had burned, and they gave us like $40,000 for the garbage truck, and that we used that money to buy the extended warranty, then do the buyback program. If we decide to keep it as a lease option, we could keep it, or they would come back and give us a new truck every 2 years. That was supposed to save the city some money. So I'm not sure Kevin is aware of that, but I know we did that.
Yeah. Okay.
So thank you, Ms. Ramsey. So that's.
This was one of the trucks that I think we just refinanced this truck.
But so we refinanced the truck?
Yeah, we just recently refinanced a couple of sanitation.
See, but I understand that, but Mr. Turner, what we had did, the council had decided that we were spending too much money on Remember those trucks was leaking? How we had a citizen complain that the truck would be in front of their house and waste hydraulic fluid in front of their house. So what we had decided to do in the Hollowell administration too. When we got his first year as mayor, we decided that we would do the lease option, where every 2 to 3 years we would trade those trucks in and get a new trucks. So that's why with the transmission going out, I don't know how, I think that's why I wish that, we would check and see what happened, where our warranty status is before we decide to pay $5,000 and some odd dollars for a transmission when we probably got warranty on it. Because I'm for sure that Wanda Crockett was owning about warranty on those trucks because we was having those problems. So I think we need to check that out to see where we are on that. And with the tree situation, Mayor, I mean, with the $5,000 that we spent already, with the insurance, you're pretty familiar with insurance. The homeowner insurance, do you think we could see if they will reimburse the city that money back? Would you like to take action on that to see if we could get that $5,000 back? Because there's a storm damage, so I'm pretty sure. Excuse me.
I'll certainly check on that. I asked that question already. The answer was $5,000 is for the portion. That's a very large tree. It covers a portion that allows the water department to get to the water line to repair it, not the entire tree. If that turns out to be, I'll ask that again, and also see if the homeowner has homeowner's insurance to actually, to tell you the truth, in most homeowners policies only pay for a tree if it falls on a structure. And I'm trying to remember if it fell on a structure on that property. It'd be kind of hard to believe it didn't, as big as it was, but most of it is right there at the street. I'm trying to remember, but anyway, homeowners policies won't pay for a tree that just falls. It has to fall on something that is covered. So, but I'll check on that.
Well, the house, and I understand, but it damaged the house next door. So, because the guy next door got a new roof because of that. So I think that, so that's just my thing.
Then if it applies, I'll certainly, Lori asked that once. The answer I got was this just pays for the part that the city's responsible for. My guess is it would cost every bit of $10,000 to remove that entire tree just to pay somebody to remove it. But I'll check on that again and I'll follow up with you.
Yes, sir. Because the reason why I said $10,000, she had some guys that would cut the trees over on my block, that the trees are still on Anderson Street, have been there for a while. They told me they gave her an estimate of $10,000, and she said she was ready. So they were trying to get a guy with a skillet trailer or something to haul it off. They was going to cut up and haul it off. So that's how I know. So that's what they was going to charge her, because they had asked me about the trees that's on the people from the volunteers came in and cut the tree that bust the gas line in front of my house and fell right in front of my door. So that's how I know.
Right. Okay, so I guess what we're going to do is check on the. I guess anybody else have any questions before I move on about either one of those transactions? Okay, so if there's no objection, then I guess we're going to check on the warranty information on the transmission on that truck as far as that goes. And then I will look into the tree situation and homeowners and report back to the council on that. Does that sound good? Anybody object to that? Okay, if not, thank you very much. Then we'll move on to the thing that is on the printed agenda. And that is an ordinance by the City of Helena regarding mask issues. Andre, are you on the, Andre Valley, our city attorney, is he on?
Yes, I'm on.
I'll just preface it by saying, I'll just preface it with the latest numbers. We've had 156, and this is Philip. They haven't started breaking it out by city inside each county just yet. Majority of these are probably in the city, but they have tested a lot throughout the county. Our testing is very robust now, and that's a really good development. I can't really exaggerate how important testing is. Due to the Department of Health, UAMS, AHAC, hospital, the East Arkansas Family Medical Center, several private clinics, there's been a lot of robust testing done in Phillips County compared to other counties our size, and that's a big deal. However, even with the testing, our positives have escalated at a very rapid rate. If you recall, we only had about five total positives, one fatality, up until as recently as 6 weeks ago or so. I might be off a week or two there, but today it's 156 positive, 50 active positive. We have 5 total deaths, which has also rapidly increased in the last few days even. Total testing has been over 2,500, and with our population, that is a very good number. But it's also the most alarming thing about our numbers has been how fast the positives have grown in such a short period of time. Having said that, Mr. Valley, would you like to review the ordinance?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Andre Valley, City Attorney. The Arkansas Municipal League has been working with the Department of Health as well as the Governor's Office regarding the crafting of a uniform ordinance for municipalities to adopt if they so choose. Basically, this ordinance is drafted by the Municipal League. The only thing we do is insert our city's name. But it's regarding the June 18th, 2020 executive order issued by the governor declaring emergency, and the June 19th adaptation of guidelines from the Arkansas Department of Health. Among those guidelines are on the last page of the document that you have. What the Department of Health has said that the general public should wear face masks in all indoor environments where they're exposed to non-household members and distance 6 feet or more cannot be asserted. This includes, but is not limited to, workplaces, retail stores, businesses, places of worship, courtrooms, jails and prisons, schools, healthcare facilities, and other people's homes in all scenarios addressed by the governor directed. The general public should also wear cover face masks in all outdoor settings where they are exposed to non-household members unless there's ample space 6 feet or more to practice physical distancing. Regarding the type of face covering, a medical mask may be somewhat more productive than cloth masks if they are clean and dry, but more and more evidence supports the cloth mask as being sufficient for the general public and prevent transmission. All face coverings should cover both the mouth and the nose at all times. And what this ordinance does, it says that the law enforcement and the city are to assist in education and guidance and enforcement of the regulations that they have. So face masks are generally recommended, and in some cases are required. Social distance is required, and what this ordinance would do is to support the police department, and the city would be supporting local businesses as well as the Department of Health in enforcing the fact that people should wear face masks, should social distance. It does not provide a penalty in it, but it does provide that there should be face masks provided in it. I got this to you today, and if you have any questions, you may please to ask so. But it is an ordinance, and it does have an emergency clause, so the emergency clause has to be voted separately. And if you adopt it tonight, it goes into effect immediately, and people will be required to wear face masks. And so the city would have to give it to all businesses within the corporate limits of the city, and the police officers would enforce it. It doesn't tell us how the police officers are enforcing it. We've been having email discussion with the Arkansas Municipal League about that. But most people think it's some form of a nuisance that you're engaging in or something of that. But typically what they recommend is that police officers start with warnings and et cetera, and then gradually escalate up towards citations if necessary. But the ordinance did not say exactly what the fines will be and et cetera, but we'll be using state law to prosecute any violators, not this city ordinance. So with that, I yield to anybody who may have any questions, comments, or statements.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Valley, I think, and when you say penalty-wise, how can we try to, I know it sounds kind of harsh, but I think if people don't follow directions, in some way they should be penalized, because I think our cases are jumping up rapidly because people are not taking this seriously. And I wear a mask, and my mom, we all wear masks, but I think people are not taking it seriously. And it's not, it don't matter. I think people go because it's hot outside, I won't get it, all these different things. Is it a way that we can try to enforce some form of penalty on this, and people don't want to, I mean, I'm caught several, so what if I get caught 3 times out of mask? And I'm in the same, not the same day, but separate times. Well, I got today, then I come on Wednesday, then turn around Friday. So what if I'm not just respecting what the ordinance is?
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Were you done? I'm trying to cut you off. Were you done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Basically, what I'm saying is this ordinance is not the ordinance to enforce the penalty. What they're recommending is that we use state law, some nuisance statute, or something of that, disorderly conduct, or something like that, to enforce the penalties. Because this is going to be an ordinance that only lasts as long as the pandemic lasts, and so it's not designed to create a penalty in and of itself. It's designed more for us to use existing state laws to enforce this, because as part of this is part of the governor's emergency power, as part of the mayor's emergency powers, and it can only be exercised during the time that the emergency exists. And when this ordinance goes away, it wouldn't be able to exercise it in that sense. So we're only in this ordinance, what we're saying is we'll follow the guidelines of the governor and the Arkansas Department of Health and follow them strictly. Now, when people are not complying, we would use a state law to use existing things on the book to prosecute them for. Part of it may be some type of nuisance. Part of it may be particularly disorderly conduct or something like that. Because one of the things about it is there are many theories of looking at it, because what you're doing is exposing people, not you in particular. The person who's not wearing the mask is exposing people to potential sickness, disease, and etc. So it's something to be taken very serious. And while there's a political narrative that says that it's political for you to wear a mask, and even the president has said himself that he perceives it as an assault on him. You don't wear a mask, it's a political statement. That's not what any of this is about. This is about the guidelines that's issued by the Department of Health, and us simply enforcing what the Department of Health has recommended. This is not a political statement. This is just a general protection for the citizens of Helena-West Helena. And it should not be perceived as a political statement. It's perceived as a health issue. And I would think that all of you would support it, from the mayor to all the city council members, because this is a health issue and it's a health crisis and emergency, and for it not to be politicized. Now, I know all of you are elected officials as well as I, but I encourage you to read it for what it is and to act appropriately based on what it is. With that, I hope I answered your question, Mr. Franklin. If I hadn't, you can further inquire.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir, you have. Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor, in addition to that, and I think that is great. And I know that you said something about mask wearing and COVID-19. Could we do a little bit extra? The city maybe will do some public service announcements or whatever, encouraging people, educating people to wear masks through our local media and maybe newspaper.
Well, Miss, if I may, Mr. Mayor, that's Andre Val again. Ms. Ford, that's one of the things this ordinance is required. It requires the government, the city council, and the mayor and the police department to notify businesses, to notify the public. They should be read in the paper. It should also be on the radio station. That it requires us to go ahead and do all that so that there could be some education as to what it is for us to enact it. That's part of what the ordinance says, is they want us to make sure we do that. But I yield to you, Ms. Ford. I hope that I addressed your question. If not, please further inquire.
Mr. Mayor, Joe St. Columbia.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I was just wondering, all the help that we can get, even if you have other agencies or whatever would pitch in and do some type of campaign on wearing masks, anything to help.
Ms. St. Columbia, hold on just a minute. I would just echo what Andre said about the ordinance that we received, which has been blessed by the municipal league and the governor and vetted. It probably more than anything else emphasizes public education about the use of masks and social distancing. The biggest enforcement mechanism that I see in the ordinance, truthfully, is it kind of gives businesses an excuse or cover, maybe, I don't know how you want to say it, to put signs on their business saying you're required to have masks, and if you don't, we have the authorization legally to ask you to leave. And if they choose not to leave, then we have the authority under this ordinance to assist the business in removing them from the business if they don't abide by those policies. So the rest of that ordinance is almost all public education. So yeah, I think we'd have to have a very prominent public health campaign. I think we need to involve a lot of people, not just the city, but county and all the, the hospital and the health, AAC and all the rest of them. Now, Ms. St. Columbia, I think you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I learned of the ordinance yesterday. In fact, you and I had a conversation about this ordinance. I received it at 5:30 today. I see where it was sent out about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and I received it at 5:30, 30 minutes before this meeting, and did have an opportunity to look it over. I received a phone call from some local small merchants in the community, and they were concerned about this ordinance. They, of course, were not aware of what the details and all were, and I weren't either about it. And under the circumstances, I think we need to I noticed where Oxford, Mississippi had the same situation come up, and they refused to move on it as well. And I'm thinking that maybe we might need to have a public hearing. I don't want to impose any hardships on any small businesses. We've got enough problems in the community right now. Some of them are going out of business. And I wear a mask personally. I believe in wearing the mask. I'm for wearing masks. I think that it's a protection of everyone concerned. But to put a mandatory law enforcement upon the small businesses, I think that's.
If I could, Mr. St. Columbia, if I could just interrupt you a little bit, I apologize to interrupt, but I wanted to clarify something. Maybe if it wasn't clarified, it's permissive, which means they don't have to do it. It encourages them to do it. It gives us the authority.
Not mandatory for the small businesses to do it if they choose not to.
Not beyond what they already have to do, as according to the governor's.
So it's nothing new to the.
The only real what it really does, and Andre, please correct me if you disagree with me or want to add or elaborate, but of course Oxford's another state, and Mississippi has a totally different set of laws and so forth regarding these issues, and so does Tennessee. We look at Memphis, we look at Mississippi, but really they're not relevant at all to us because we operate under Arkansas law. So Fayetteville and Little Rock ordinance would probably be the two ordinances are the most relevant. The governor didn't agree with some of the harsh penalties in the Fayetteville ordinance, but he did agree and go along with the Little Rock mayor's executive order on masks and said that would comply with his concerns. And then the Arkansas Municipal League stepped in and spent about a week, I guess, going back and forth, and came up with this ordinance. It is permissive in that they don't have to do anything that they're not already having to do under the governor's directions. We have no authority as a city over interstate commerce. And in the state of Arkansas, only the governor can make those kind of exceptions. What we can do in this ordinance, if the business asks us to, okay, only if they ask us to, we can come remove a customer from the building if they ask us to. It doesn't require it, so it is permissive. Now, Andre, please,
Mr. Mayor,
elaborate.
if I may,
Please
Andre Valley for the record again. Section 2, Mr. St. Columbia, if you review that, I will read it for the sake of the listening audience. It says the city of Helena-West Helena has determined that the local law enforcement and other city officials will act in a support capacity to local businesses that wish to enforce the use of masks upon their premises. And that's the gravamen, that's the essence of this. It's for those businesses who are going to require people to wear masks in them, then we will enforce it with those businesses. It's not mandatory that other businesses have masks. If we continue reading this, the law enforcement action in support capacity shall educate and encourage the members of the public who decline to wear facial masks regarding the efficacy of the wearing of such coverings according to the Arkansas Department of Health guidance on facial coverings released June 19, 2020. Law enforcement may additionally act in support to local businesses by educating individuals who decline to comply with the facial covering requirement of any local business that the individual must abide by the requirement or leave the premises. And so basically this is a situation where law enforcement is assisting businesses who desire for people to wear face masks. And that's what this is geared towards, is to give people who say, hey, you can't come in our business unless you wear masks, the authority to do so, and to limit people from coming in their businesses. And as law enforcement will be there to enforce this ordinance on their behalf. It's not mandatory for people, or mandating that people have to wear face masks. But if a business chooses to say, I'm going to post this and you cannot come in my business without it, then law enforcement has the legal right to go in and assist them. And at that point, the people would be criminal trespassing, people would be disorderly conduct, and et cetera. That's why, to go back to Mr. Franklin's question, that's why this doesn't have the fines in it. You're acting in a support capacity. This is not creating something. This is just because, as the mayor said quite articulately, is that the city does not have the authority to declare an emergency in and of itself. That's reserved for the governor. And the city cannot operate beyond the governor's authority. We have to operate within the governor's authority, and he has not given an order saying that everybody must wear face masks. So we can't go beyond that. And what he has agreed to is that if a business wants to have the enforcement of face masks on their own, the law enforcement can assist them. And so that is the limited capacity within which we operate. This is not an outright compulsion that if you walk in public, you have to wear a face mask. Now, the guidelines encourage people in public, as I read earlier, to social distance with 6 feet and that you should wear a mask. So it's encouraged to wear a mask, but it's not mandatory to wear a mask because the governor has not articulated that, and we cannot go farther than the governor would allow us to go. Because as the mayor quite candidly stated, that the governor is the one who has the authority under the Constitution of the state of Arkansas, and we cannot exceed his authority as it relates to emergencies. I will yield to anyone who has any questions or want to further elucidate on the issue.
Yes, I want to continue on with my question to make sure I get the clarification of it. In other words, we're not putting any new regulations on a business, what I understand you're saying. In other words, if the small business, what they're doing now will be maintained. And of course, this ordinance, if they want to bring in more enforcement, then they can do it as be their local option. Is that correct?
That is correct. Right, Andre?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. It's to give protection to those who desire protection for their business If they want to exclude people from their business and say you have to wear a mask to come into my business or you have to leave, then the law enforcement, then they can do so and we can support them.
Yeah, but if they don't want to, they don't have to, and there's nothing that no laws against them to make them enforce it. The small
So
business.
we'll make sure we're communicating properly. If a local business does not want to, if local business doesn't care about someone wearing a mask and wants to come in freely and not wear a mask, they don't have to do so.
Okay.
This does not compel them to do so.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Okay. Thank you.
Good question, Mr. St. Columbia. Any other questions for Mr. Valley or me or anybody?
I just want to make a comment.
Yeah, I move to adopt.
Well, there's
I'm sorry, Mr.
a motion. I'll second the motion.
Who made I'm sorry. Everybody was talking at the same time. Who made the motion?
Mr. Franklin made the motion and Mr. Etherly seconded the motion.
Okay. Mr. Etherly moves adoption. Do we have to
Mr.
put
Franklin
on
moved to adoption.
do we have to put it on third and final reading and all that stuff?
Yes, the motion should be to Mr. Franklin, as City Attorney. I'm asking you, are you asking that we suspend the rules, place on third and final reading the title only?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Etherly, that's your second, so comply.
That's my second, but I wanted to comment also, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So
Okay.
motion in the second, and any discussion, Mr. Etherly?
Yes, sir. Just kind of in response to the discussion that's been going on. And I keep up with these numbers every day. And I try to keep up with the information every day. And I hear the discussion about people not having to do this, and certainly we can't compel them to, but I think we have a responsibility as city leaders to let them know that they should do this. I wish we had the authority to make everybody wear a mask, and but you know, of course we don't. But I wish we did, because we could slow the transmission of the virus. And there are people who want to believe it's not real. It's just something that's made up by the media. It's just the flu. So this stuff has been going on for months, and thousands of people have died nationwide. We've had 5 people to die here in Phillips County. We just came off a holiday where people were gathered in numerous places not wearing protective face masks. That means we're going to see a spike in transmission in maybe 2 weeks or so. People are going to get it. We may see more hospitalizations. We may see more death as it relates to this. And we have a responsibility to speak the truth. And the truth is that this virus can kill you. And the only way to stop the spread of this virus is for people to take proper precautions, which means washing your hands and wearing a face covering. You're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting other people by doing that. And so to the extent that people don't want to do it, we need to educate them that they should. And I do not support anyone trying to encourage people not to take the precautions. We should be telling them you should take the precautions, and this is why. And a lot of this stuff people won't realize how it impacts them until it impacts them. And you don't want to get that far down the road. Don't let it impact you. Try to inform yourself. Use credible sources. These are the doctors and scientists who are telling us to do these things, and we should follow their lead. And so I want to encourage everyone who's listening. I want to encourage all city government to support it. To tell people who say, I don't want to wear a mask, tell them you should wear a mask. Not, you don't have to do it. You have a right not to do it. Certainly you do, but you should wear a mask. You should wear a mask for all of the citizens and all of the people that you come in contact with. We should encourage them to do that. And that's what I've been doing, and that's what I intend to continue to do. So I spoke to the mayor before this made it to the table. I asked him if he would support it. He said he would. I've talked to various council members, asked them if they would support it. Those who I did talk to said they would, and I would encourage everyone to support it. I just think it's important that we do this.
Very well said, Mr. Etherly. Very well said. Any other questions or comments?
I have a comment. I just feel that education is so very important. Our numbers are rising rapidly, but I have a question. Is it possible for us to give out masks to the citizens? I mean, some citizens may say that they don't have any, and they may not have any, and they may not be used to wearing them, but is it possible in any fashion or form to give out masks?
It's a great question, Ms. Davis, and I think in other cities, the fire department and those cities have had events where people drive through and pick up masks. In our case, of course, we have budget issues, but I think we also have some resources here, the Helena Health Foundation being an important one, and others who, if y'all recommend it, we can ask for support financially to purchase masks. But other cities have done that. Sure have. It's a good idea.
Thank you.
And I would like to say that this is Wanda Crocker for the record. The sheriff department had a mask and sanitizer giveaway this past weekend for the elderly.
Good point. I don't guess I knew about that. Not good for them. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. Some good suggestions, and I'll get on the phone with Helena Health Foundation and others in the community who might want to donate to that. And then the other issue we found is just the sourcing of them. You want to make sure you don't, that you get a mask that works. You don't want, and then getting them in a timely manner and in hopefully a cost-effective manner. But it is definitely easier now than it was in March, because March it was extremely difficult. I do think it's possible, and I do think the community has resources to do it. So we'll look into that, and we'll all follow up with council tomorrow on some sources and some suggestions on that. All really good ideas. Other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, Joe, again.
Yes. Yes. Sir.
I noticed, of course, I go out to Walmart, and I notice maybe half the people that are there shopping in Walmart do not have a mask on. And I notice a lot of small children in the store. Will this impact them wearing masks or not wearing masks now? Was this going to cause more and more people to acquire the mask? I have, and I will not go out without my mask. That'd be understood. And I believe in the mask. But there are a lot of people, like Monica said, don't have the mask and aren't wearing them. And they're going to have to now start getting them. And will that be mandatory?
And let me, all good points. The health department, if I'm not mistaken, says that some small children, I'm trying to remember now, I apologize, but obviously there's some very small children that it might be difficult to do that with, but I can't remember what the age is now. And Helen just pointed out also that there's, for those who can, there are those on sale at Walmart and in different places around the community. I'm trying to remember what the event was. Oh, the march on Cherry Street. We were concerned about masks. We didn't need to be. They came prepared, but we did go buy some from a local source, and we're prepared to hand them out to participants in the march. We did hand out some, but they came well prepared and they were way ahead of us on it. So we still have some of those, and there are local sources, and we just want to make sure that they're COVID correct, I guess you'd say. Anyway, and let me say, and there's no finger pointing here. I'll be the first to say that I could do a better job myself. So we're all guilty of it. I probably touched my face about 1,000 times during this meeting. So that's probably the hardest thing for me to stop doing. But So nobody's trying to point fingers or judge anybody, but we all, and to echo Mr. Edley, need to get very serious about this. Our community is starting to see this a lot now. We've done a lot here, and we did it early, and we should be proud of that, but it's not going to be enough. We're still going to deal with this, and our healthcare facilities particularly are what we were most concerned about. We don't want them to get overwhelmed. We don't want this to be like some places in the country and around the world where the ethics committee of the hospital actually has to meet for the first time ever and make a decision between whether grandpa or the grandchild gets to be on the ventilator, which is a life or death decision. We don't want that to happen here. We have 6 ventilators. It's happened in many, many places. And it's very serious. One of the first deaths in Arkansas was the wife of a very good friend of mine. It's very real. I think it may have been Mr. Edley or someone said, I think it was, when it happens to you, it gets real very fast. And so we could all take it more seriously, me included. And I applaud the council for your support of this. I haven't said that. Any other questions or comments?
Well, the last comment I want to make about this thing is that what I can see from the ordinance, it is mainly in support of what we already have.
I think it emphasizes it. It places a public emphasis, and I think it says what Mr. Etherly says, which is it gives us an opportunity to speak out on it, provides some leadership on it, and it also gives us, I guess, written authority, and it gives to support businesses who ask us to help them with it. Okay. And primarily, you know, this is what I would want to stress is that we all have individual rights, but we don't have a right to get someone else infected with the disease that might kill them. We don't have that right. That right doesn't exist. That's an imaginary thing that people are doing for political reasons, for financial and greed reasons. People have to be held accountable for their own actions, and this, I think, puts a stamp of endorsement behind that concept by our city government.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Franklin.
I had started something on Facebook a couple months ago, 100 Days of Kindness. I think that, you know, some people are not fortunate to get a mask, and I'll donate to the city. I'll get 100 masks and bring them to City Hall, not for a political show, political reasons. I just think that I have a 6-month-old child, and my sister left me with a 1-year-old child, and I'm more concerned about when I go out, what will I bring home to them? So I have to change clothes, put on masks, gloves, because I got those small children at home, and I would hate to see my nephew and my son have to go on a ventilator because of poor choices that I've made. So I'm willing to donate that to the city, and anybody else who want to come on as a kind act to the city. I mean, you know, people are always discussing what we do and how much we make and this and that, but that's neither here nor there. I just want to make sure that I don't want nobody to infect me because I have these children. And I have a wife. I got a mother who has a pre-existing condition. I don't want her infected. So I took care of my family with masks, and I'm willing to help somebody else who can't get a mask. I mean, you know, masks, you know, you get them for 40 for $20. You know, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help somebody else out. Because I got Miss Davis. She don't know it yet, but I got her. So, and anybody else who needs hand sanitizer or whatever, I go and buy gallons of hand sanitizer and stuff to make sure that my kids, my brothers, and my folks are doing what they need to do. So if anybody needs some, I mean, if I had to bring some drugs to City Hall, it doesn't matter. I want to make sure that nobody coughs on me.
Thank Ms. Franklin, that's interesting. And I also want to say that Ms. Davis suggested or pointed out that, or reminded me that Envirotech, which is making hand sanitizer for the world 24/7, down Highway 20, has donated several drums to the city already. And we can ask them for some more donations. And if people can bring their own bottles, it'd be hard to probably have the money to buy everybody a bottle of Purell or something, but we could fill up bottles for people that came by to pick up those masks. We're very fortunate that we have a company here locally that's doing that. Any other comments or questions before we call a question?
Yeah, if I can just jump back in with one thought, and this is just facts, and this is news as of today, July 7th. UAMS has come out with a new model. In the state of Arkansas, we had a low day today in the state of Arkansas. I think it was 259 new cases. We've been doing 3, 4, 5. We had 800 cases one day last week. UAMS has produced a new model that says on the current trajectory, by October, we're going to have 20,000 cases per day, new cases per day, 20,000 in the state of Arkansas. And you can find that it's on katv.com right now, if anybody wants to read that story. So don't take it from me, read it for yourself, understand where we're going and where we're headed and the reasons why we need to protect ourselves. So with that, the other thing is I would like to get with the treasurer and we can talk and just share some cost of, we can explore some cost of masks and see if the city has any funds or the ability to perhaps make an investment for our citizens in masks. And I'll do that outside of the meeting, and I'll make it a point to try to do that this week to see if we have any expendable funds for that. But I just wanted to pass on that nugget of information because it's being published right now. You can find that on the web at katv.com.
Good point, Mr. Heatherly. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, Ms. Sandy, call the roll. Ms. Sandy, did I catch you off guard?
Ford,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Franklin,
Yes.
Crockett,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
6 yes.
Motion passes, and again, unanimously, thank you. And I support it in case there was any question about that.
Mr. Mayor, there's an emergency clause.
Emergency clause, I'm sorry. Is there a motion
So
to
moved.
approve? And who made the
Second.
motion?
Well, if I may, I think that the first motion was to place it on its third and final reading alone, so we need a motion to adopt.
That's correct, Mr. Ether.
I'll move to adopt.
Mr.
Second.
Edley moves adoption.
Second.
What was the ordinance number?
12,
Ordinance number 12. And who seconded the motion? I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay, great. Ms. Ford seconds the motion. Any other questions or discussion? If not, call the roll.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Franklin,
Yes.
Crockett,
Yes.
Davis, Ford,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank y'all again. And we need a motion. Now we need a motion for the emergency clause.
So moved.
Who was that? Mr. Franklin, who was that? Mr. Early? I'm sorry, he said,
Franklin.
Ms. Franklin made the motion. He seconded.
Yes, sir.
Crockett.
Ms. Crockett seconds the motion to approve the emergency clause in ordinance number 12. Any questions or discussion? If not, call the roll.
Etherly, Ford,
Yes.
Crockett,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
St. Columbia. Mr. St. Columbia, Franklin.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, 6 yes.
Yes.
Passes. Okay, thank you again. Thank you for your leadership. And so we will get busy on the all the things we talked about. The public education piece I think is really important. And I think we need to bring in people like UAMS East and the hospital and East Arkansas Family Medical Clinic and doctors and anybody else we can to bring home the importance of it, because you do have to fight a lot of misinformation out there. And I think it's important that we counter that and not just let it go unaddressed. The issues about masks and so forth. And remaining 6 feet apart, which is part of this ordinance too. So thank you very much. Now we do have another issue. It's not on the agenda. Is the Mr. Turner, do you want to speak to the issue of the fire department overtime? Mr. Turner, Derek, are you there? I think you're Mr. Turner.
I think he left.
I think he's just frozen there. Sandy, are you
I'm here.
there? You see Derek?
No, sir.
He's frozen.
Okay. Well, okay. Maybe he'll get back on here in a second because he's got the paper in front of him. I'm really reluctant to give it out in the number because I don't have it to the penny, but I want to say it was, and I hope I'm not wrong about this, I want to say it was in the neighborhood of $8,000. But we really need Mr. Turner, are you back? Okay. You want to talk about the fire department overtime?
Yes, sir. This pay period, the fire department has accrued $8,153.63 in overtime. I think that's pretty good. Well, we need an appropriation before we can pay them, but that actually is that's the entire amount for June. That second pay period in June, we're paying it now in July. And so I think this is very good. That means they only had $8,000 that was accrued in June, and they had been averaging for the 6 months prior to that, the 6 months pay periods, $20,941.82. So they were almost averaging $21,000 a month. And so they got it down to $8,000 this time. So I think that's pretty good. So we need to appropriate that amount so they can get their overtime checks. Now, most of this is a result of a couple of people had a couple of COVID scares, but both of them came back negative. And so while they were self-quarantining, you had to have some people kind of take over their shifts. And so if it hadn't been for that, it probably would have been a little bit lower than that. So right now we need $8,153.63 in new appropriations so they can be paid this overtime this Friday.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Questions for Mr. Turner?
Yes, sir. I got one, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Turner, how is the? I got the treasury report, but I'm out right now.
Okay.
How are we looking? How much? Well, let me ask this question first. How is the police department with the overtime? How they're managing their overtime as well? And then, do we have the resources to pay this money without putting us on any danger of meeting payroll or anything like that? How does this affect us going forward? Because I know them.
We're not in danger of paying payroll because of this. The only reason that it's being separate is because of the appropriations. We have to appropriate those funds, but we wouldn't have a problem paying it. As far as the police department is concerned, they're doing a pretty good job of staying under budget. They're about, I think they're about $30,000. We had budgeted them $100,000 also, and I think they're about $30,000 under budget right now.
Okay.
So he's doing a good job on it with scheduling right now.
Other questions to Mr. Turner?
That's all the questions I have for Mr. Attorney. I'm on the conference call.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? So what
No,
we
I
need,
don't have it.
well, give you a second. So what we need is a motion to appropriate the 8,000, how much was it?
$8,153.63.
For the fire department overtime to be paid.
So move.
Mr. Edley moves that we appropriate a resolution that we appropriate the amount given by Mr. Turner for fire department overtime. Ms. Crockett seconds the motion. Is there any further discussion or comments? If not, call the roll.
Franklin,
Yes.
Crockett,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Ford. Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Oh, Etherly,
Yes.
6 yes.
The motion passes. Thank you very much. Ms. Attorney, do you have anything else?
Yeah. One more item. The auditor for the water department suggested that because of the rate changes and the problems with the bills after the rate changes and consolidating the accounting system and the billing systems and things of that nature in the water department, that he suggested that we get a CPA to come in and get them up to speed and get them back on track before the audit. The audit is gonna, I'm not sure exactly when it's scheduled, but it should be in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And so he suggested that we get someone in there to get them back on track before he did the audit. We have a couple of suggestions, a couple of recommendations to do it, but I'm thinking that it's going to be a little over. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm thinking it's going to be over $5,000, which is above your spending limit. And so I kind of want to ask the council to allow us to contract one of these 2 people that have been recommended to come in and bring them up to speed before the audit occurs at the water department.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Questions, Mr. Turner?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
That money you're asking for us to approve, they have it in their budget. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve it.
Mr. St. Columbia moves that we approve a resolution. Who's second?
Ford.
Ms. Ford seconds motion to contract with an accountant for reconciling and working on the budget issues with the water department per Mr. Turner's briefing. Any questions about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Crockett, Franklin,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Turner. Did you have anything else?
That's it.
Any other issues?
Can I ask about Mr. Franklin about, okay, when did you guys want to do, did you want to wait till the next council meeting to deal with this 5,092, this check to get the transmission rebuilt? We're going to wait 2 weeks. Did they want to schedule, try to, as soon as we found the information out about the, we had any type of maintenance agreement, as soon as we found that information out, did they want to have a special call meeting or did they want to wait till the next council meeting? I guess that's what I'm asking.
I mean, once you find out.
Can I make a suggestion on that, Mr. Franklin? If we find out that it's not covered by the warranty, could we make approval conditioned on
Yeah.
determination that it's not covered by warranty or elsewhere?
Because the
assume-
work has been done,
Yeah.
right? Mayor,
Actually, I'm not sure how. I didn't approve it if it has been. But we can, so I think Mr. Franklin said he was okay with that. So if we make the motion conditional on making sure that it's not covered by warranty or some similar way to pay for it or some other alternative way to pay for it, yes. Then it would be acceptable to you, Mr. Franklin. I think you said yes.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
So would anybody be willing to make that motion? The motion would be to approve the expenditure for the transmission of
So moved.
5,000 conditioned on the, as mentioned. Ms. Franklin moves, and was that Ms. Davis who seconded?
yes.
Any other questions or comments? If not, call the roll.
Etherly,
Yes.
Crockett,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Franklin, Forward,
Yes.
and Franklin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Ms. Ramsey,
Yes, sir.
are you gonna check on that for us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Turner?
No, sir.
Okay, that's every item that I'm aware of that's on the agenda on business. Is there anything else before the council?
Move we adjourn.
No. I had something on the, Mr. Mayor, about an event on the 12th. A young man is putting an event together. He's cutting hair, free haircuts and stuff like that on Sebastian's Ceasefires. J.C. Moore is presenting that, to be outside in that little parking lot right beside Excellent 2000 Salon, Burger Shack in the area. They're cutting hair. Then we'll have masks and hand sanitizer, all those things like this, like a giveaway. So now he's setting up on the 12th. So I just want to get that out there. So I will bring a flyer so that you can have it. It's kind of hard to get into City Hall right now. So I'll make sure you have everything so you can post it and do whatever you need to do. So I just want to get that out there.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Franklin. And I'm aware of it. And I didn't realize it was going to be outside. So it is going to be outside his business there. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I first of all, let me say it sounds like a great event. I can't think of anything more important after the event Sunday night. Not to mention other things that have happened to get that message out. And I compliment him for and you and others for promoting it. And I'll do what I can to promote it. The way I do want to explain something, because I think there's some misunderstanding. Y'all can maybe help me explain it. And y'all know about this probably more than I do, really. But if a private business wants to have an event, they can do so. They don't have to have an event permit unless it's going to require public parks, public streets, public that are selling things and that sort of thing. If they're a private business, and it's presumed that they've already paid for an occupational license, they've already done the other things that are required of businesses who conduct business inside the city limits. So those rules are different than somebody who comes in and tries to host an event, or somebody locally who wants to host an event. And I think there was some people don't realize the difference, and that's okay. I probably wouldn't have known the difference myself before I was mayor. But it is something we have to explain to people. If you're an existing business, presuming you've done those things, then it's different. The rules are different. Now, they still have to go by the state's, the governor's guidelines. And unfortunately, I don't know if this has made it out or not, but the other night, actually, Chief Smith called the proprietor of the place that was having the event and let them know that we were about to call the Department of Health because they appeared to be in excess of what the governor's requirements are on COVID. And the proprietor quickly agreed to go ahead and dismiss the crowd, which for that kind of event, 10 o'clock is pretty early. They can go into 2 in the morning sometimes. He had no problem with it, and he quickly agreed to let the crowd know and the performer know that they were going to go ahead and shut down early because they didn't want to invite that. And there definitely was a crowd that appeared to exceed what the state governor's requirements were. Now, what would have actually happened in that case had we called the Department of Health, but we didn't need to because he went ahead and on his own accord stopped the event. What would have happened is the Department of Health theoretically has a person on Sunday night. I would hope they would go out. I don't know if they really would, but they would go out and examine the premises and then either make a warning or ask us to cite them and go in and that sort of thing. But we have to, in that case, we have to await the governor or the Department of Health's guidance. All we can do is alert them to it. That's what we did. He didn't wait on that. And as they were exiting the building is when the tragedy occurred, about 10:30, as people were leaving the buildings. Anyway, I thought I'd pass that information. I don't know how well people knew that. Sorry to end on a down note, but I would just pivot quickly to say that shows how important it is for us to get that message out. And sometimes I think the nonviolence message, and I think sometimes if you want to get to the crowd that is needing to hear it the most, they probably aren't going to listen to me because they've got too many gray hairs, but they're going to listen to their contemporaries. And so I really applaud it, and I hope it goes well. Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Okay. Any other questions? I think we had a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. There's no objection. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for attending, and also thank you for what you did tonight. Appreciate your leadership. Y'all have a good evening.